Well, hello. Thank you for coming, everybody. I appreciate it. I'm Jeff Graham. I'm going to get my remote fired up here. So Bill was kind enough to ask me a little bit about my nature photography, so I wanted to talk to you about nature photography today. As she mentioned, I do a lot of other kinds of photography, but this is one of my main passions, so without further ado, we're going to talk about a couple of different sections that I think are pertinent to nature photography today. A little bit of introduction about me. I'll keep that very brief. We're going to talk about some landscapes, animals, nature up close, which is macro photography, if you're not familiar with that. A little section I'm calling minimalism, and I'll get to that in a second. And we're also going to have a short video presentation on some of the vlogs I do. So I'd like to start off each section with a quote that I think is kind of pertinent to this. Not to be too cliche, but I think Ansel Adams summed it up really well in this quote here. So there are always two people in every picture, the photographer and the viewer. I think that's good for any kind of art too, or other medium like writing, you know, the reader and the writer, a painter and the viewer. It works with any kind of thing. So if nothing else you get out of this today, I want you to be motivated to get out and explore. We have such a beautiful place in Tennessee and around here, so I'd like you guys to get out and explore. This is at Narrows of the Harpeth. So a little bit of background about this. When I started learning about photography that I like to do, it was on vacation with my family. And what we would do is we would always stand there and we'd stand in front of the thing we were gonna do and we'd smile and take the picture. And then after a while, you look at every album and it's just picture after picture of us standing here, standing here, standing here, standing. And I got bored with that for some reason, and I decided, I didn't know I was gonna be a photographer or anything. I just took the camera and I was like, well, what if I can just take a picture of the thing I'm seeing as I'm seeing it, the way I'm seeing it, and wouldn't it be cool if somehow I could make the photo interesting enough without us having to stand there to make people wanna look at it? So that's kind of the theory. So here's me kind of in my element doing my thing, rain or shine, in the snow, all over the place. So those are fun to do. So the first section I want to talk about is landscapes. And this is, if you guys have been here, this is Northrup Falls. This is just down the road a couple of weeks ago. And I think one of my all-time favorite photographers, Art Wolf, one of my heroes, sums up landscapes really well. And he says, it is in the wild places where the edges of the earth meets the corners of the sky, the human spirit is fed. This is in Cozumel on our honeymoon. So I'm going to get into a couple of photos, talk about them quickly. I'm going to whip through these pretty fast. There's a lot of ground to cover. So this is at Radnor Lake. This is in Nashville. I don't know if any of you have been to Radnor Lake in Nashville. And that's the moon rising over it right up there. It's a little hard to see on the screen. Another part of Radnor, different time. This is at dawn. Very different colors, different tones and hues. This is from a vlog I did in Big South Fork. This is one of the Twin Arches. This is the South Arch. And I don't think I'll have time to show a video of that today, but it's on my YouTube channel. This is one of the things I love to do a lot. Everyone likes to do this, shoot at magic hour. There's a reason photographers call it magic hour. This is a really fiery sunset at Percy Priest Lake out in Nashville. And that's really close to where I live, so it's a great place to just go out and enjoy a sunset like that. There's another sunset at Percy Priest, using things like these foreground elements of these rocks. I know one of these photos, the intro photo, is taken from there, and Bill was asking, well, where'd you take that? It's like, these rocks aren't as big as they look. They're only this big. But using a wide lens and enhancing that perspective, getting down low and making them more interesting. This is on a boat at Center Hill Lake. Another sunset right as the sun was about to go down behind the mountains there. And this is down in Scotts Gulf, if you guys have been there before. Beautiful fall colors that time of year. I'm hoping to get some more fall leaves this year. And I do a lot of verticals as well. I don't do just landscape photos. These clouds on the left kind of remind me of cotton candy or something. And then this another fiery sunset down at Radnor Lake on the right. But just different perspectives. You know, shooting a scene real tight, shooting something wide like that, seeing different perspectives. You'll see that more and more. This is a sunset. I was actually not there to shoot the sunset. I was there to shoot a luxury real estate listing. And I was shooting the camera and all the neighbors started coming out and they're saying, oh my gosh, this is an amazing sunset. Let's go look at this. So I turned the camera around and took that shot there of the silhouette and the trees. By the way, the house I was shooting also turned out well. It ended up on the cover of Luxury Home magazine. So that was facing the other direction. So that was nice to have some success there too. Beautiful home. I shoot a lot of Americana as well, and I'm not going to get into that today because that's a whole separate topic. But this is actually in Virginia from a moving car driving through. I had my friend drive slow. So this is probably going 40 miles an hour, and I saw these cows out there, and I thought that was kind of cool. A little bit more Americana, just to get a little bit more of that working with landscapes. So a beautiful barn in Greenbrier, Tennessee. This is just in between some bands of rain. And that rain is nice to help bring out a lot of colors and make things saturated and beautiful. Anybody know what that is? Okay, yes. I would hope people here would know what that is. So they're curing tobacco, and this is more of a photojournalistic style of things, where then you go into a tobacco curing barn like this and see this beautiful tobacco. The smell in this barn was incredible. That was a really, really cool place to go in. So that was just on the side of the road. Walked in real quick, took a shot, left. Something else I've been doing out at the lake is, because they've clear cut all these trees and then they made this man-made reservoir, it has a lot of stumps, and these stumps have been underwater for 20, 30 years now, and they've started to get some really interesting shapes to them. So only in the winter you can come out and see these interesting shapes like this. So I've got a number of these that I started doing this last winter. And this one's only about the size of that chair. It's just real low perspective, making things kind of interesting. And to give you an idea of what that would look like when I'm taking it, that's the camera on the tripod upside down, real low next to the ground like that, which makes dialing in all your settings really difficult because everything's upside down and you can't read it. So just more things, playing with different types of frames and different things like that. This is a very shallow depth of field shot where I'm just keeping the focus on the log with the sunset in the background. More about how that photo was taken, so you can kind of see what that looks like. And then I got lucky here. The sun just popped out behind the clouds just before, but it's just kind of a totally different take. Most people would just trip over this log and keep walking. I brought some lighting on that one. I cheated a bit because I wanted the quality of light that I wanted. So. And then I started freezing motion too. You get all these cool storms in the winter, so that's more about freezing motion. Here's another one. You might get wet doing shots like that, just fair warning. And that water is like 20 degrees, so. That's very cold. That's another one where it's just real dramatic, real low angle, freezing that motion as well. And then that's shot with a very tight telephoto lens, and the stump is actually way out there in the distance. Stop drawing on that. Okay, so similar subjects, different times of day. One is the sun setting, the other one is a supermoon rising. So supermoons are where the moon is extra close to the Earth, and when it's on the horizon, it gets really big. Especially when you shoot it with a telephoto lens like that and fill the frame with it. And this is in winter. This is actually a little Photoshop trickery. It's split halfway down the middle, so the photo is actually like that, and it's a mirror image of that. This is what happens when we get snowed in the one day out of the year in Nashville. We don't go anywhere. We walk on this trail next to where we live, and we get some cool things like that. This is going up to Klingman's Dome. This is out in the Smoky Mountains. I really want to do more shots out there because I think it's such a beautiful place. I just have to get out there and do it. So I want to talk a little bit about time manipulation. We shot some of the short exposures, real quick, freezing motion of water and everything. This is long exposure, and this is what I do a lot with waterfalls and some other things that you'll see in a minute. So long exposure, it just makes things, instead of real quick and frozen, it's really dreamy. It's got this soft, ethereal kind of quality to it. A good example of that might be shooting lightning. You leave the shutter open for 10 or 15 seconds and let multiple lightning strikes come down and hit. It's not one, it's several lightning strikes across the lake. Another good example is doing astrophotography. So that's right there in the center. That's Polaris. That's the North Star. You point the camera at that. You leave it open for about 2.5 hours, and the rotation of the Earth spins the stars around and blurs the stars and gives you this spiral pattern like that. So you can do that, yes. This is actually last night, right over here. That's the Milky Way rising up over. There's 3 different shots there, some tighter ones, wider ones. The Milky Way and some trees in the foreground. So beautiful skies out here, it's so dark. And then this is on a big South Fork backpacking trip where we're using, again, long exposure to kind of create this dreamy quality in the water. But really what I think that technique is suited well for is waterfalls. So this is this one's down at Rock Island, yep. That's the wide shot at Rock Island. And I like doing those dreamy shots because with all these rocks, you have this real jagged, sharp texture, and then you have this soft kind of quality to it. And it's a nice juxtaposition.
Where's this one?
That one is in Old Stone Fort State Park. That's a beautiful area, a lot of waterfalls there if you haven't been there. That's at Northrup Falls. That's the base of Northrup Falls right down here. Real wide angle, real low. You can watch the vlog, watch me get soaked as I'm trying to shoot that photo. That's at Cummins Falls, and a word of caution because some people actually lost their lives tragically recently here. That's in the winter months when the water level's low, things are consistent, it's not the rainy season. They had a deluge of water fly over all this, and a couple people drowned in that just a couple weeks ago. So don't do shots like that when it's in the rainy season. That's not safe. That's more Rock Island, Old Stone Fort State Park, just kind of wider shots, tighter shots, different things. And then you can see some rainbows in some of these shots too with all the mist coming off the waterfall. It's probably hard to see from where you're at. There's a rainbow here and there. It's at Burgess Falls before the rains wiped out some of the infrastructure there a few years ago. Hopefully they get that fixed because I'd like to go back. More wide and tight shots. That was on a kayaking trip that I vlogged about a couple weeks ago. And then they don't have to be in color either. So the fun thing about waterfalls and photography, you can do black and white. This is Burgess Falls, kind of a detail shot, black and white. That kind of thing works as well. Here's another black and white water shot, but now see the difference between fast shutter, slow, dreamy, ethereal water. Fast shutter is really sharp and harsh. That's a jetty in Haiti. So freezing that water. And this, I think, looks underwater, but it's not. And it's just dappled sunlight coming through trees, going onto some rocks and these white limestone rocks underneath. That's in Big South Fork as well. This is at the highest point in Tennessee, Clingman's Dome. I don't know if any of you have been there. And what happens is that the peak is on the right over here, and it'll come down and it'll swirl around like this, and you get these cool patterns in the clouds. So those are really fun to watch. And of course, you don't always have to be on the ground to do that. This is in a plane in Central Florida taking off with some storms in the afternoon over some lakes and everything. So always, I like to get the window seat, obviously. I try to kick people out. And I'm not an aisle sitter, and usually you'll get the aisle and the guy in the window seat, and they close the blind, they go to sleep, and I'm like, oh, come on.
That's the business guy.
Yeah, those are the business guys that want to get sleep. So I don't consider myself a wildlife photographer, but it's nature, and I think that animals are cool, and I like to do some animals as well. This is a John Muir quote. If you guys don't know who he is, he's the founder of the Sierra Club. And he says, in every walk with nature, one receives more than he seeks. I think that's a good way to look at the nature out there. These are 4 deer in the morning light with snow falling on them, going out there. And that's shooting out in the snow. Doesn't that look fun? On the other side of the camera, I was actually waiting for these. They're cedar waxwings eating berries that are out there in the branches. So I watched a flock of them come in one winter, and that was this last winter. These are 2 fawns taking care of each other, of course. So animal behavior is a fun thing to watch. So just watching them kind of love on each other, do things like that. It's fun if you can tell a story with those wildlife and those animals and having them. This is just at the zoo. I didn't go to Africa. But still having them kind of in their thing. And these were newborn lambs, for instance, together. And if you can get that reaction, then I've done my job well. So to these, that's a 400 millimeter lens cropped. So probably from here to you, maybe something like that. Yeah. And the mother looking over them. I think they were born 2 days before that or something. They're just getting their legs together, so yeah, they're cute. And just other fun animal behavior, like this quirky bird or this squirrel that's actually in a tree in our backyard that's just kind of eating a nut, looking over there. It's fun. That's a Eurasian lynx that's actually through the fence at a zoo. So, and other birds like that too. They're fun. And then again, black and white, you can do it with animals too. You don't have to just stick to landscapes with it. So I like the black and white, bringing out the texture in this elephant's skin. I think it's kind of a fun thing. This is a Pacific sea nettle. This is at the Georgia Aquarium. And I think they're just really beautiful animals. They can grow up to 6 feet long. And lionfish, again, in an aquarium. This next one's not in an aquarium, but if you want to shoot in an aquarium, you can put a little, this is fashioned out of a tape to keep the glare down, wear dark clothing, make sure you're not reflecting in the glass. This one is not in an aquarium. Anyone been to Grand Cayman before? Okay, because that's my feet right there. They're swimming over it. They don't have anything done to them. They're wild, but you feed them. They're fun. So these are some groundhogs sounding the alarm at their den there. That's on a walk that we were doing on the Nashville Greenway. So a couple other little birds just kind of interacting. And this is a giant iguana sunning himself on the ancient Mayan ruins in Tulum when we were there. These are a few more reptiles and things. I wanted to get all the icky stuff in one spot together in case people don't like bugs and creepy crawly stuff, like this spider who's larger looking than he really was, but natural camouflage and uncomfortably close to this hornet's nest as well. So, but it's all fair game for wildlife. So,
Was that a pun?
Yes, it was. Thank you for catching that. Yeah. So, more wildlife and other things like that. That's at sunset at the lake in the wintertime. That's a Prononotory warbler getting nesting materials. So watching them build nests is a fun thing too, watching all that animal biology, or these great blue herons at this rookery, and there's probably 24 of them in these trees building all their nests and flying materials in. That was in April.
Where was that?
That is it's on Old Hickory Lake. Yeah. So those are fun. And he's just showing his wings off. Yeah, that's the Aflac duck. You say an Aflac. And more cedar waxwings getting ready to take off in a tree there. Those are fun in the winter, and some other things like that. So, I don't.
We have artists in the room. We have artists in the room.
I know, yeah. Do a lot of those.
Myron, that's for you.
Thank you. Yeah.
These are so incredible.
Thank you.
Can I have a question?
Yeah.
How do you get a shot like that one you just had with the butterfly?
Right there. You stand outside the Target parking lot. Seriously. And you happen to drive by and you see those, so you go get your 400 millimeter lens and you stand out there and you wait for them to fly down, and then as soon as they land, you take the picture.
That's in a mimosa tree.
Yeah. Yeah, they're really pretty. Yeah, that was, I think 2 summers ago, that one. And that's actually where I grew up in Merritt Island. That's a local peacock. They have a bunch of peacocks there, and they walk around. So, and just another mallard drake standing on a log there. He's just hanging out. And then in flight, too. So. Okay, and that's a ring-billed gull.
Shore or from a boat?
Oh, these are all from shore. These ones are. Yeah, you'll see in a second here. Not this guy, but that's a sea turtle. A sea turtle for. And that's a juvenile ruby-throated before he gets the ruby throat. That's at Radnor Lake, and that was in their backyard on a tree. So yeah, you're asking if I'm on shore or not. So these are American coots, and this is me shooting the American coots out by the dam at Percy Priest, if you've been there. So that's kind of how I'm seeing them. I think it was raining that day. Okay, and then this is Nashville wildlife, the Nashville penguin, if you've seen that one out there. No, that's how we shoot those. Okay, so this next section I like to call nature up close. It's macro photography. For those of you who don't know what that is, it just means shooting things really close, like this mushroom here. That's in one of my latest camping trips, and it's a technique called light painting. You'll see more on that in a second. And that's kind of what it looks like to the camera. There's a tripod set up. You get the mushrooms right here, and the paintbrush is this flashlight right here. So what you do is you basically paint the light on with a flashlight, leaving the shutter open, and then I usually blend frames together in Photoshop to get the final result. And you'll see how that works in a second. So I wanted to start at the macro section with another quote here. This is from Elliot Erwitt, who's a famous photographer from turn of the century. And he says, "To me, photography is an art of observation. It's about finding something interesting in an ordinary place." And I think that's a great quote to talk about macro photography, because macro is cool because you can do it anywhere. You don't have to do it out at a state park. You can do it inside. You can do it 365 days a year. You can do macro photography. This might not be an obvious place, but this is in Haiti. This is snorkeling, and that previous shot of this exoskeleton of a sea urchin was actually recovered from the seafloor. Right, that's when I'm doing it. They said we were okay to do that as long as they were dead, and that one is. So, so this is more on that light painting thing. So these are what mushrooms look like to my iPhone. This is what they look like light painted.
Wow.
So very different. How do we get that? That's pushing a lot of light through these gills to get them to look like that. And this is more of a technical type of photography. I like both, but this is more like a lot of arduous photoshopping. So I'm gonna show you a quick time-lapse video to save you the hour and a half it takes to edit that kind of photo, to show you what the different layers look like when I'm blending them together. And it's got some really loud music to wake everybody up. That's another one, too, from the same batch.
Can you go back just for a second to the original? So I kind of
One more.
To the original. That's that section right there, right there.
Okay.
And then that right there is that.
Wow.
So. So that's a lot of what light painting looks like. I'll keep going here. So,
What did it take you to do that?
about an hour and a half to edit that together. About 30 different shots, getting the light in all these different places. And the reason being, if I just pushed the light in one spot and took the photo, it would be completely blown out, all white in one spot, and I wouldn't have the detail in other places. So that's more of an advanced technique. That's not your average kind of thing. This is more what you're used to seeing with macro.
So trial and error.
Oh yeah. I mean, some of them I won't use, and some of them I'll look back at the shots and I'll say, oh, I want more light coming through one spot, and I'll hit that one and then blend them together. This is more of a traditional approach to macro now, which is more like flowers and that kind of thing. This is actually the rose from our first anniversary, so immortalize it in a photo like that. And this is a sunflower in bloom, or about to bloom. That's one in bloom. And then again, working in the wildlife into that, having the bees kind of do their thing, getting up close to them, seeing the pollen on them. I think that's a cool thing. This is at Cheekwood Gardens, and I don't think it was raining that day. I think I had a spray bottle with me, so yeah, I bring a spray bottle. Flowers look good when they're wet. I cheat a little bit. That actually was raining, I promise, on that one. I was at a garden, and that was actually actively raining when I took that one. But it doesn't always have to be raining. This is some dew on a spider web up close like that. And this is from a backpacking trip in Big South Fork. I was basically tired, so I pulled over and took some photos while I was recovering from my hike. But that's something most people would just walk right by. And if you watch the video, you'll see that right there. And then detail of a waterfall, kind of long, dreamy shutter. Anyone know what these three shots have in common besides the fact that they're all trees? Kind of a trick question. They're all taken from my balcony. They are, but they're all taken from my balcony. So this kind of photography, you don't have to leave home to do. There are different times of year, obviously, like when it freezes over and it gets encased in ice like that or something. It's kind of cool. But I'm not out at a beautiful park shooting this daffodil. I'm actually at the home studio like that, shooting a daffodil. So you don't have to be. When it's rainy or it's snowing or it's a bad day outside, you can be inside doing photography with macro like this. Or anybody ever stepped on these sweet gum pods with your bare feet? Again, that's just at the home studio. That's not there. And then same thing with this. That's from a flower arrangement like that. So you don't have to be outside to do those kind of photos. And like this beautiful log, actually I was outside for that one. So it's fun to mix those things up, but I'm still lighting it too. I have a flash that I'm lighting that with to get the light just the way I want, because I want to bring out some of the texture in that. And again, some bees. That's actually in your front yard. So, and a butterfly, very close, not too sharp, but anybody ever seen that close to a butterfly before? Yeah, they're interesting up close like that. So, all right, I'm gonna whip through a couple of these little pollen granules on the tips of the stamen like that. Really close, little water droplets on a rose petal. That's a thistle. That is actually outside somewhere. Or orchids. That was also at home. Did I fool you? I print out green backgrounds and put them in there. That's not a real background. That's a piece of paper. And that was left over from, I think, our wedding floral arrangement. One of them was a dried poppy pod. That's a poppy when it's not dried after some rain. And then that was inside again. So a lot of those. I like doing roses like that too. Those are fun. Or just setting down your backpack on a photo hike like that, and you look next to you and you see something cool, like those two mosses kind of growing next to each other. I thought those are kind of neat. So those are good. Another one at Cheekwood. And there's some magnolias right across the street from us blooming. So, anybody have a guess what that is? Yes, that's a dandelion. Very close to a dandelion, and in black and white too. You can do black and white with this stuff too. You don't have to do color on all of them. So those are kind of fun to do like that. And then that's just on the side of the trail, flicking ticks off me as I'm trying to take that shot. So this next section I want to call minimalism. It's a short section, and it's something that I feel about photography that I don't know if I've heard people mention, but I think is kind of a cool thing. To me, photography is more of a reductive process, and what I mean is like you control everything in your frame, And I'm reducing everything out and distilling out whatever I want till I just have what is important to me in that image in the frame. I think like with filmmaking or something, you're always adding a scene, you're adding a character, you're adding dialogue, you're fleshing out the story as you go. Photography goes the opposite way. You're distilling things down to one frame to tell a story. Maybe if you're a photojournalist, you have multiple frames. So something like that could be this Dieter Rams quote, which I think is really good. Anybody know who Dieter is? Probably don't. He's not an artist, really. He's an industrial designer for Braun. He kind of was the guy that made a lot of the industrial designs for Braun in the 70s and 80s that now Johnny Ive for Apple has copied and brought that design ethos. So good design is as little design as possible, and I think that that's a good design ethos to have when you're talking minimalism. And that's what kind of spawned things like the iMac, the iPod, the iPhone, all those designs that are really minimalist, just a screen with a button. That's based on Dieter Rams. So like this log or these trees that are out there in Percy Priest Lake right as I think a snowstorm was coming in across the lake, something like that. Or another example would be one like this, if just a simple sunset with just simple soft colors, no real distracting backgrounds, no crazy clouds, no foreground elements, just a simple quiet night at the lake. Or this gradient of patterns that you get up in the Great Smoky Mountains right at sunset at blue hour. So just the fog bringing in those different layers. And again, that's a long shutter. It smooths out the fog, makes it really soft and dreamy and everything. Or just focusing on one dandelion and having your wife blow on the dandelion while we're taking the photo. So, and just a cairn on the left or this other little stump on the right, just kind of using shallow depth of field in this instance where I'm just focusing just on that object to make it kind of pop. Or just having something like this moon, that's a super moon right up against, I think, a pine tree. Or just a super moon rising over the lake, real simple. And just kind of simple compositions. Even like a waterfall is really complex, but just kind of focusing on like a couple of rocks and like a little bush or something. Or maybe the foreground elements of a waterfall. Maybe you're not shooting the waterfall at all. Maybe it's the little dewdrops that are on something in front of it. We're just kind of focusing on these little, they're not cattails, I'm not sure what those are, but, or just a tree on a hill, like that. So those are nice and simple. And they make for more striking images, I think. And that doesn't have to be in color, it can be in black and white. Take out the color, color can be a distraction. Maybe you just want tones. So, or here's another tree, in color now. But it's a little different because the twist on this is that it's flooded from a lot of rainfall, so you just have it disappearing into water. So.
Now, how'd you find that?
Driving. It's right next to where we live, and I know several other Nashville area photographers, and I know 2 other people that went out and shot it.
So you just instinctively...
I drove past coming home one day, and I said, oh, that's a shot. And I ran out, got my camera, and I made my first blog on that tree.
Wow.
So it's on YouTube. So you can watch the whole process on YouTube. But that was my first vlog, was that shot. So
Yeah, I mean, it's just, it seems...
yeah, I mean, you'll see how close it is in the vlog because I'm talking the whole way. Yeah, it was a spontaneous thing. I was like, I'm going to start a vlog, so that was that shot.